Good day, everybody, and welcome to the Zodiac Racing channel. I'm Essie, and I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks that I've learned over the years with regards to setting up your rig. Like many of you, I've went through the same problems, trying to figure out what's comfortable, how long this should be, how far that should be. And hopefully after today and the tips I'm going to share with you, you'll be able to set up your rig, regardless of what type it is, for you to be comfy, so that you can race for long sessions, have some fun, and enjoy this wonderful sport of ours called sim racing. So I'm going to switch over to a few cameras today, just to show you what's what. So let's jump right in, and let's move over. So I'm going to show you the rig as a whole, and then we're going to start focusing on the sequence of things that I normally use to set up the rig. So first things first, let me jump out of the chair so that we can get a bird's eye view of what's going on. Switching over to the droid cam, so this is my little corner in the world. My sim rig triple monitor setup. So we've got obviously the rig frame in place. Now this can be a desk, this can be a steel rig for you, whatever the case may be. Pedals mounted down there. Then all the other racing paraphernalia, button box, flags, and so forth. Now the starting point for all of this will be your seat. So if we drop down a bit to seat level, the main important thing that I want to show you here is that first things first is you set up your seat. Get it in a nice position with the reclining of the back and all those type of things. Make sure you are in a nice comfortable position. Then once you have reached that, I'll speak about the backrest and everything. As you can see, I just used a second-hand Volvo seat, very comfy. It's got lumbar support and height adjustments and thigh support, all those various things. So and you can normally get it for very cheap. So that's what I went with, and it's genuine leather as well, so that's nice. First thing I want to show you is just the following thing. So when you've got your seat all set up and ready, your pedal plate that your pedals are mounted on, if I zoom in there, should be on the same height. Your heels, where your heels will rest, should be roughly the same height as your bum. So where you're sitting with your ass should be about the same height as where your heels will rest on your pedal plate. This allows for a couple of things. For one, when you press hard on the brakes, then you will move back in your seat and not necessarily up in your seat. So like we said about the backrest, the backrest, this will allow for your backrest should be in such a position that when you press your pedals, you will move backwards in your seat. You don't want to have a situation where if you press the pedal, you move up in your seat, because that can cause some back strain and all that. So having the pedals on this height, let's move over to this camera. Moving the pedals onto this height means that as soon as I press the brake, I will move backwards into my seat, and you will be able to control the brake much better. And at some stage you'll also feel the pressure in your back as well, giving you the sensation of, okay, I'm pressing my maximum that I want to press. So not only will you feel that pressure in your leg, but you'll also feel it on your back as well. The amount of pressure that is being exerted onto the backrest, the pillow, the stuffing, the cushion part of the backrest, which makes it a lot easier for you. So seat, get that mounted, and the backrest as far upright as you can. This is now for normal GT positions. Obviously, if you are in a Formula position, you're going to be in a totally different thing. So this is more for general racing GT type of stuff. Then your pedal plates, your pedal adjustments. Now all of you know this already, but let me just switch over there to the Droid Cam. So I prefer to have, like you see on the P1000s I've got a little heel stop there, so I rest my foot right there. And when I press the brake, you want to have a bend in your legs. And even when you press the brake fully, you still want to have that bend in your legs. So you don't want to be in a situation where you sort of stretch with your calf muscles to be able to press the throttle. So you just want to both throttle and brake. Once you press fully, you still want to have a bend in your legs. Very, very important. And you can see the angle of my leg versus my foot is roughly about 90 degrees. So that I could just press straight forward with the big muscle groups in your leg doing the hard work. Also, you want to have a situation where you've got a little bit of play in your foot like this, so that when you rest your feet on the plate, there's no activation of any brake force. You don't want to have a situation where you have to constantly pull your foot back. That'll cause a lot of strain on these shin muscles here, and it will make you very tired very quickly. So I've got this amount of play in my foot comfortably to lift it off from the pedal. So make sure you've got some leeway there to make it comfortable for yourself. As you can see, my pedal faces are roughly about almost vertical, because that all aligns with the seat being on the right height. So when I press the pedal straight down or straight, there's a whole straight line going from my pedal straight through my legs into the seat. I'm not having a situation where we are moving up in the chair when we do any brake movements. So that is the first thing that I would recommend you do. Get the seat mounted on your rig, whatever it is, doesn't matter. If it's a steel rig, wooden rig, even a desk. But try and get your pedals in a rigid position and roughly the same height as what your bum is. That's where everything starts. Of course, this is all my opinion. I've done a lot of testing, had a lot of different setups, and especially if you carry some form of injury or something like that, it's very important to make sure that when you are sitting here for long periods of time, you're not exerting too much forces on a specific muscle group or overworking certain areas of your body. It causes back pain, wrist pain, shoulder pain, all those type of things, leg pain, calf cramps. Because you're going to be sitting here for quite some time, make sure that you are comfy and it's just right. Okay, so we've got the seat, got the pedals. Now, what next? The next will be your steering wheel. And I say steering wheel and not wheelbase, because there's a very important reason for that. For that, we're going to move over to the top cam. The light should be bright enough for us to see what's going on here. So the most important thing for the steering wheel is that, let me just move this camera further to the back and a bit down as well. Apologies. Okay. So here we have the steering wheel. Most important thing to get the position of your steering wheel is remove it from the base. Hold the steering wheel in your arms. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the angle in the elbow here is 90 degrees. Okay? That's the first thing. Then you're just going to hold the wheel. I'm just simulating now. You're going to hold the wheel in a comfortable position for you. Different wheels have different grips and stuff and all that. So you just want to hold it in a position that you feel comfortable. Your hands feel, yo, this feels good. For you, some of you it might be a bit more tilted forward, some of you it might be straighter and all that type of thing. But you hold it in a nice comfortable position. Your hands next to your sides. Make sure this is 90 degrees And the only other tip I can give you is that you've got a little bumpy on the front of your shoulder, a little funny muscle, I call it. This height should be equal to the top of your hands. So I've got my 90 degrees. I've got the height there and there, same height. And that, and the angle, normal gripping it. And that is the angle that you want your steering wheel to be on. So that if you sit in the rig, you got your hands next to your sides, 90-degree angle on your arm, and I just do that. And I've gripped it. So ask somebody to do the measurement for you. So get one of those apps on the phone that measures angles or something. So you put your wheel right in front of you. Now you've got your pedals and your seat set up. So now we want to determine what height and what angle should I make my wheel base. So we hold the steering wheel nice and relaxed next to our sides. 90 degrees in the elbow here. Make sure that is the same height. And once you find that, you measure for example, the distance from the quick release on the wheel to the floor, and you measure this angle with one of those phone apps just to determine, because the angle here will be the same angle that you mount your base plate on. So that this angle and that height for the quick release should be the same that what you measure when you hold the wheel in front. Close your eyes. Get comfortable. Just hold the wheel in a natural position. Get that height and this funny muscle on your shoulder the same height. And you should be in a position that when you sit in your chair and your arms are resting behind next to your sides, nice and relaxed, and you just grip the steering wheel, it should be right there in front of you. You shouldn't have to reach for it, and you shouldn't have to lift up. This position will allow you to be able to turn the wheel full degrees without lifting your shoulder. Now, I personally have a bit of a shoulder injury, so you don't want to have a situation if the wheel is too high, you're going to have to sort of start turning with the shoulder. That's going to kill your shoulder, absolutely. This position allows you to, when you turn, you just press on the wheel. You just press with the left hand and it goes up. But your shoulder doesn't move. So it stays in a nice firm position. Everything is lined up straight with where your center of power will be in these muscles on your shoulder. So you're just going to work straight from there, and everything will rotate around that. In a car, normally, a normal car, you'll sit further from the wheel because you don't need those forces in a normal road car. But when you're racing, you want to have these things in such a position that you can have maximum control and have maximum power available to you, so that when you turn the wheel, you can make those small corrections. You don't want to exert too much force on any one of the muscles. So in this way, the wrist is not being stretched forward, backwards, or anything like that. So just keep that in mind as well. Very nice to have that. Okay, so that is the wheel. So that will determine what the height of your wheelbase mount will be, what the angle of your wheelbase will be, based on your body type, the way you are built, long arms, short legs, long legs, doesn't matter. These are the guidelines that I can give you with regards to getting all of these things right. And it's important that these things are right before we move on to the next step, which is your screens. So many people will mount their screens and then they'll fit there to work together with that. And that's actually not the case. You want to get all of this done nice and comfortable for yourself, and then you put your screens. Now, the most important thing for screens is that you want to be in a situation where you will measure the distance Let me just move this camera up a bit. You're going to measure the distance from your eye level, right there, to the floor. In my case, it's 108 millimeters. So that is my height from my eyes, right there in the corner, to the floor. And you want to mount your monitor in such a way that the middle of the monitor is on the same height. This will make everything else so much easier when you get to the setup part for the rest of it. Even more so when you are working with triple monitors. But even for single monitor, you want to have that exactly the same. So just measure the height of your screen. Remember, you've got a little bezel at the bottom. So I measure the physical monitor part, the part that displays an image. And I get the half of that, and I make sure that it's also 108. So that when I look straight on, it's exactly eye level. I don't have to look down, I don't have to look up. Now you might be in a different situation where you can't fit in your, if you have to move your monitor in such a way to do that, your base might be in the way or something, but get as close as possible to lining up the center of the screen with your eye height. Center screen first, and obviously if you've got triples, then go on to the sides, because that will line everything up for you. So that is the rig setup, monitor setup. Now we want to get to the other juicy part, and that is the FOV and all those type of things. Now we're focusing specifically on iRacing here. So I'm just going to go through the steps that we have for iRacing. So on iRacing, you have the option to go into the exit menu, where you can see the UI like this, and you're in your specific car. What I actually did was I designed a little 3D print thing. Let me show you this. So I designed a little 3D print thing like this, very simple. And this is, for example, my display size is 34 centimeters in height. So this little thingamajig is just 2 bars with a little grab handle, is exactly 17. So if I need to do this process, and you can do it with a ruler or anything, but this one just works nicely because I can just hold it against the screen. So I just hold it there on the bezel, and for these camera adjustments, it just helps. Then you can just have a constant guide about what's what. So you go into the normal cockpit view, okay? This is assuming that you have set up your FOV and everything correctly. Just a quick reminder for FOV, you go to the settings, display, you put in your resolution. I run all of these things on 0. Here you will put in your screens, whether it's one flat screen. Let me just move over there. So it's one flat screen, 3 flat screens, and so on, so on, so on. I've got 3 curved screens. This is the width of the monitor from corner to corner, not display, the whole thing. And then the little bezel, the black parts, 8mm per side. Obviously, if you're doing triple screens, you have to enable these 2 options. My viewing distance, 60.5 centimeters or 605 millimeters. Don't worry too much about this. I find that if you do use curved screens, then I use half the radius of the monitor in this radius of the curvature. I find that renders the image in a more natural way. These monitors specifically are 1500R monitors, but if you put it on 1005, it just doesn't feel right. All other calculations I've done matches what I'm doing here. So press the compute and you get your FOV. Don't change your FOV. Once you put in these numbers, leave it as standard. But rather, go into the game, into this. You can use this centripetal circuit, because that's as flat as it can get. Very handy tool in iRacing. Just go here on the track, and we are going to go to the camera tool. So do not adjust anything here in the black box. You'll see there's also a shift horizon and a driver height. Don't make any adjustments there. Let me just take the top cam away so that you can see here at the bottom. Shift horizon, driver height, don't change anything there. Keep them on 0. This is the FOV that we just calculated. And that's just the FOV of the virtual mirror. So leave these ones on 0. Go into the main menu here, exit. Go to the in cockpit, select cockpit there, and go to the camera tool. Now we only want to focus on these top ones here. If you did all the assemblies correctly in terms of seat, pedals, steering wheel, monitor height, then this P value here will always be 0 because everything is lined up. You don't need to compensate with an up or down pitch to get the horizon in line with your eyes. If you're in a position where you cannot get this correct, that for some reason maybe your wheelbase is too big or something and you can't get the monitor exactly eye height, that's where you can use the vanish Y to adjust to get that. For example, that you see it moves the horizon up and down. So then use the vanish Y if you can't get it until that center or until the horizon is exactly the same height as your eyes. So let's say, for example, I was very much taller than what I am now. I'll have to adjust the horizon so that that's on the same height. So I'll bring it down a bit and so forth. But as far as possible, avoid this because it creates a lot of distortion. If you're on triple monitors, rather don't go that route if you can. But all the other adjustments is going to be made here. So I normally just go into a normal session, turn the wheel 90 degrees so that I can see my hands. I like to have the hands on because it looks better on stream and I like to have something moving. I don't like having a static wheel or no wheel. And if you stream, it just looks nice if you can see the hands moving. So what I normally do is I just move it to 90 degrees like this and then open the camera tool. And all I do here is I work with the X, which is forwards and backwards, and I use the Z, which is up and down, and Y is left and right. Now there's not a lot of cars that are off center, but this you can use if you feel you just want to move a bit to the right or to the left, that is Y. No pun intended. Okay, so X, that is forwards and backwards. So when you calculated your FOV, it might give you a number that is a lot smaller than what you are used to. Many people like to drive on a very wide FOV. And yes, each to its own. I'm not one of the FOV police. However, I've tested many different ways of doing things, and I still find that the correct FOV just puts everything in proportion. It doesn't screw with your brain so that you know exactly when to turn in and those type of things. But here, if it gives you now a lower value than what let's say you drove on 100 and now you calculated it and it gives you 80 or something, it's going to feel like you sit right on the dashboard. And this is where you can utilize, although you're not changing the FOV, you're just moving your seat back. So I normally move my seat back with this position on the wheel until the size of the hand and everything sort of blends together with my rig. So if I turn the wheel, let's go top cam. If I turn the wheel, then if I look and I can just see the outline of the little hand there on the screen behind my hand. The size of the wheel is exactly the same, and it just feels like you're sitting in the car. That's how I personally do it. There's no real golden rule here. Some cars you sit further back, some cars you sit further forwards, whatever the case may be. And then I use the up and down, because if you just sit normally on 0 with a Z here, then it feels terrible. So I use Z to move the camera up to a position where that hand and the wheel feels as though it's naturally connected to my wheel that I have in front of me. And then I use this little tool that if you need to adjust the horizon, then you can use a tape measure or a ruler or anything. I just have this little thing that I made, 3D printed it, to lift it up and down, and then you use the P to either move it up or move it down if you want. But if you've done everything correctly, then that should line up with your eyes already. And that is how you set up your screens, your FOV for whatever you are driving. This is now more iRacing specific. And then the last thing is this is done per car. So we're in the Toyota GR86 at the moment, so we have to, once we've adjusted the seating position for this car, then you have to click on save. So you have to click save. We've done all the adjustments, the X and the Z, up and down. We are fine, we feel comfortable. Then we press the save car. You don't have to give it a name, and you just press save. And then every time you load into the GR86, it will load up this screen. If you forget to save the car, then it's going to go back to default, and you have to do everything over again. So just remember to save car. You don't have to give it a name, just save it. It saves it in the Toyota folder, and you don't have to do it again. Okay, so now we've done that. We've set up our seat. Backrest is nice and firm. Pedals are the same height, or the heel is the same height as our bum. Pedal faces nice and vertical, so that when we press, we move back in the seat, not up. We move back in the seat. Now we want to just discuss the brake as well. So if I bring my SimMagic software here, now a lot of people have the tendency that they just want to brake very hard, and in ACC we all know that you sort of drive the car on ABS, but many of the other sims actually prefer you don't go 100% all the time. So how do we fix this? How do we make sure that we are in a position where we can trail it properly, do proper trail braking, have proper control? And that is by setting up your brake pedal correctly. So you can see these pedals have a load cell and an angle sensor. Many pedals have the same, but we're using the load cell for this one. So you calibrate your pedals, which means if there's a 100 kilogram load cell in your pedals, you don't have to calibrate it and go and stomp on it to get to 100. When you calibrate your pedals, when you press the brake to calibrate it, you want to press it as hard as you will ever feel that you will ever need to press the brake. Some of us have big strong legs, others have small legs, that type of thing. So it all differs. The 100 kilogram or 200 kilogram load cell just means that it's rated up to that weight or force applied to it. Doesn't mean you have to brake to 100 kilograms. So get a feel in the pedal that when you press, as far as you physically capable. Remember, you're going to be racing for 40 minutes, 3 hours, 24-hour endurance races. So if you expect yourself to brake for 80 kilogram constantly, lap in and lap out, you're going to totally screw up your knee. And that's exactly what happened to me. I had too much wrong angles on the brake pedals and everything, wrong calibration, and it really chows your knee. So this is something you're going to do for a long time, so make sure that you are comfy and you can do it consistently, lap in and lap out without getting tired. Yes, it's massively impressive. You could press an 80 kilogram load cell just with your little toe, but you're not going to do that for 4 hours. So the most important thing when calibrating your brake is you have to have some form of spot that indicates 80% braking. You should be able to close your eyes and then just press the brake a little bit. And I know, because my brake is calibrated to 50 kilograms maximum. So I know if I just do that, that should be about 12 to 15. Okay? Just a little press, 12 to 15. That's just a little bit of a brake. If you want to go 50%, you should feel it on the pedal. This is about 50. So we see there about 24 Ks, that's roughly 50. And then you should have a point that's 80%, like that. And you should be able to hold it there with little force. Because 80% is normally sort of just before you engage the ABS. And that's very important, specifically in iRacing. You don't want to ride the ABS because that just increases your braking distances and all the things that would make you slower. And then lastly, I use the 100% braking for those oh shit moments, or in areas where you have to brake 100%, coming down a massive straight or something like that. Monza turn 1, for example. You have to brake 100% there because you're coming down to speed of light. But other than that, you should calibrate your wheels so that you have a definite feeling within yourself. If I press a little bit, okay, shot. That should be about 25% or 20%. Just a little, because in a lot of the corners you just want a little tap on the brakes. And as you can see, we just want a little bit of tap on the brakes. In this case, from 10 to 15 kilograms. Okay. Then I want to have want to have a natural feeling about where is 50% braking, and you should be able to jump between these. You should be able to close your eyes and know this is about 50, that's about 80, and if I bring it back, that's about 25%. And that should be natural. You should have that confidence in your brake pedal. So calibrate your brake, very important. Calibrate your brake. Make sure that you can hit these markers consistently. So close your eyes, little bit of brake, 10 to 15 Ks, release. Let's go 80%. It's roughly about there. Let's see. Yeah, 36 kilograms. That's roughly about 80% of 50. Then we want to go 50%. There we go, 25 kgs. Perfect. And you want to have, because that will give you maximum control over your car. The throttle is always sort of linear. For some reason, this thing switches off after 10 minutes or so. But in any case, I digress. So calibrate your brake. And that, in a nutshell, will make you comfortable for your racing. It'll make you consistent with your braking and your application of force. It will not make you tired in long sessions. You won't overexert any of your specific muscles, be it your legs, your calves, your shoulders, your back, and your eyes for that matter. So hopefully this will help any of you wanting to build a new rig, or maybe adjust your you better. Maybe you feel uncomfortable and you need to make some changes because you picked up a knee injury, or you find that your shoulder is hurting when you race for a long period of time. Take these factors into consideration. This is what I've experienced. I've done a lot of research over the past many years of having this hobby, and you have to compensate. Don't overexert yourself, and most importantly, have fun while racing. So I hope it helps you and you can have a good experience and go and make some friends on track. Thank you for joining us. See you again in the next one. Cheers.